The cursor blinked on Derek's laptop screen, mocking me with each flash. I wasn't supposed to see this. I was only looking for the insurance documents he'd promised to email me, but instead I found something that would shatter my world into 1,000 pieces. The message thread was open, minimized at the bottom of his screen, and the preview text was enough to make my stomach drop. Can't wait for our special dinner Friday. I'll wear that red dress you love. My hands shook as I clicked the message thread. The woman's name was Candace Mitchell. I didn't know her. I'd never heard Derek mention her name. But there she was, filling my husband's private messages with heart emojis and intimate words that should have been meant for me. I should have closed the laptop right then. I should have confronted Derek the moment he walked through the door. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the lawyer's daughter in me, or maybe it was just survival instinct. Instead of screaming or crying or throwing his laptop across the room, I started reading. Every message. Every exchange. Every lie that my husband of 7 years had told me while building a completely separate life with another woman. The affair had been going on for 8 months. 8 months of late meetings and business trips and guys' nights that were actually romantic dinners and weekend getaways with Candace. 8 months of him coming home to me, kissing me goodnight, and pretending to be a faithful husband while texting another woman from our bathroom. My breath came in short gasps as I scrolled through their messages. They had inside jokes, pet names for each other, plans for a future that apparently didn't include me. Candace called him baby and my love. Derek told her she was the most beautiful woman in the world, and that being with her made him feel alive again. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to scream. But I kept reading because I needed to know everything. I needed to see the full picture of my husband's betrayal before I decided what to do about it. That's when I found the message about Friday night. Derek had made reservations at Constellation, the most expensive restaurant in the city. The place where he proposed to me 9 years ago. He was taking her there, to our place, to celebrate their 8-month anniversary. The same man who'd forgotten our actual wedding anniversary 3 weeks ago because he was too busy with work, had remembered the exact date he started cheating on me. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. This wasn't just an affair, it was a complete rejection of everything we'd built together. Our home, our marriage, our life. None of it meant anything to him anymore. I heard Derek's car pull into the driveway. My heart hammered in my chest as I quickly closed the message thread and pulled up the insurance folder I'd supposedly been looking for. I heard his key in the lock, his footsteps in the hallway, and then his voice calling out the same greeting he'd said 1,000 times before. Hey honey, I'm home. The words sounded hollow now. Meaningless. How many times had he said those words while his phone buzzed with messages from Candace? How many times had he kissed me hello while thinking about her? I took a deep breath and forced myself to smile as he walked into the home office. He looked the same as always, tall, handsome, with that easy smile that had made me fall in love with him in college. But now when I looked at him, all I could see was a stranger. A liar. Someone who'd stolen 8 months of my life while I remained completely oblivious to his double life. Hey babe, I said, keeping my voice steady. Just grabbing those insurance documents. How was your day? Long, he said, loosening his tie. Really long. I've got another late meeting on Friday, by the way. Henderson account. Probably won't be home until around 11. Another lie. So smooth and casual, like he'd practiced it. Maybe he had. Maybe lying to me had become as natural as breathing. That's fine, I said, closing the laptop and standing up. I'll probably just have dinner with Simone anyway. Derek smiled and kissed my forehead. You're the best, you know that? So understanding. I smiled back even though everything inside me was screaming. Of course. That's what marriage is about, right? Supporting each other. That night, I lay awake next to my husband, listening to him breathe. He fell asleep easily, peacefully, without a care in the world. Meanwhile, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with questions I'd never imagined asking. How long had I been so blind? What had I done wrong? When exactly had I stopped being enough for him? But as the hours passed, my questions shifted. The pain began transforming into something else, something harder and colder. I didn't just want answers anymore. I wanted justice. I wanted Derek to feel even a fraction of the humiliation and betrayal I was feeling right now. By the time the sun rose, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Derek thought he could take his mistress to a secret romantic dinner and continue living his double life without consequences. He thought I was too trusting, too naive, too devoted to ever suspect him. He was wrong. I wasn't going to confront him privately. I wasn't going to give him a chance to lie or manipulate or convince me that I was overreacting. I wasn't going to let him control this narrative or make me feel crazy for being upset about his affair. No, I had a better plan. If Derek wanted to celebrate his 8-month anniversary with Candace at Constellation, then he was going to get a celebration he'd never forget. I was going to bring every single person who mattered in our lives to witness his betrayal firsthand. His parents, my parents, our friends, everyone who believed we had the perfect marriage. Derek wanted a special dinner? I was going to give him one. Just not the kind he was expecting. The next morning, I woke up before Derek's alarm and made him breakfast. Scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, his favorite. I even made fresh coffee and brought it to him in bed with a smile on my face. "What's this?" he asked, surprised but pleased. "Just felt like doing something nice," I said sweetly. "You've been working so hard lately." If he noticed the edge in my voice when I said working, he didn't show it. He just smiled and kissed my hand like I was the most thoughtful wife in the world. Like he wasn't planning to betray me again in 4 days. I spent that entire day playing the role of the perfect wife while secretly building my case against him. Once Derek left for work, I made copies of everything on his laptop. Every message. Every photo. Every receipt for romantic dinners and weekend trips I knew nothing about. I saved it all to a flash drive and then uploaded it to 3 separate cloud storage accounts just to be safe. Then I started digging through our finances. I'd always let Derek handle the money because he worked in finance and I trusted him. What a mistake that had been. It took me less than an hour to find evidence of his spending on Candace. Expensive jewelry from Tiffany's. Designer handbags. Hotel rooms in cities where he'd supposedly been on business trips alone. He'd spent over $30,000 on his affair in 8 months. $30,000 of our money I'd earned too working 50-hour weeks at the law firm, used to wine and dine another woman. The anger burned hotter with every discovery. But I kept my face calm and my actions measured. I couldn't let Derek suspect anything. Not yet. I called my bank and quietly moved half of our savings into a separate account under just my name. I documented every asset we owned, the house, the cars, the investment accounts. I made copies of our tax returns, our mortgage documents, everything that would matter in a divorce. Yes, I was getting divorced. That decision had been made the moment I saw those messages. There was no coming back from this. No amount of couples counseling or apologies could fix what Derek had broken. He'd made his choice when he started this affair, and now I was making mine. Around noon, my sister Simone called. She could always tell when something was wrong, even over the phone. "What happened?" she asked immediately. I broke down and told her everything. The messages, the affair, the lies, my plan for Friday night. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. "I'm coming over," she finally said. "You don't have to. I'm already grabbing my keys. Be there in 20 minutes. Simone showed up with our best friend Imani, who apparently she'd called on the way. The 3 of us sat in my kitchen while I showed them the evidence I'd compiled. Both of them looked sick as they scrolled through Derek's messages with Candace. "I can't believe him," Imani said, her voice shaking with anger. "I can't believe he could do this to you. You're amazing, Naomi. You're beautiful and smart and you've always been so good to him." "Apparently that wasn't enough," I said bitterly. "No," Simone said firmly, grabbing my hand. "This isn't about you not being enough. This is about Derek being a selfish, lying piece of garbage who doesn't deserve you. Don't you dare blame yourself for his choices." Hearing my sister say that broke something open inside me. I started crying, really crying, for the first time since I'd discovered the affair. Simone and Imani held me while I sobbed out all the pain and betrayal I'd been holding in. They didn't try to fix it or tell me it would be okay. They just let me hurt. When I finally stopped crying, I felt empty but strangely clear. The tears had washed away the last bit of denial I'd been clinging to. This was really happening. My marriage was over. But I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to handle this my way. "Tell me about your plan for Friday," Simone said. I explained everything. The reservation I was going to make at Constellation. My intention to bring everyone important in our lives to witness Derek's affair firsthand. The look on his face when he realized his secret was out. "I love it," Imani said immediately. "It's perfect. He wants to parade his mistress around in public? You'll show him what real exposure looks like. But you need to be smart about this," Simone added. "No physical confrontation. Nothing that could make you look bad later. Just calm, clear truth. Let his actions speak for themselves." "That's exactly what I'm planning," I said. "I'm not going to yell or cry or cause a scene. I'm just going to present the evidence and let everyone see who Derek really is." We spent the rest of the afternoon planning every detail. Simone would help me make the reservation and coordinate with everyone we invited. Imani would come over Thursday night to help me get ready and keep me calm. And I would practice staying composed no matter how Derek reacted. That evening, when Derek came home, I greeted him with a smile and dinner on the table. We ate together like we had hundreds of times before, making small talk about our days. He told me about a client meeting. I told him about a case I was working on. Everything was perfectly normal on the surface. But underneath I was counting down. 4 more days of this charade. 4 more days of pretending I didn't know he was planning to betray me again. 4 more days until Derek's entire world came crashing down around him. After dinner, Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled, that same private smile I'd seen so many times lately without understanding what it meant. Now I knew. That was his Candace smile. The one he never gave me anymore. Work email, he said casually, setting his phone face down on the table. I said, taking another bite of my salad. I wondered if Candace knew he was married. Some of their messages suggested she might think he was divorced or separated. Other messages made it clear she knew exactly what she was doing. Either way, she was about to learn the truth on Friday. They both were. That night, I slept better than I had the night before. The initial shock and pain had faded into something colder and more focused. I had a plan. I had evidence. I had my sister and best friend backing me up. And in 4 days I would have my revenge and my freedom. Derek had no idea what was coming for him. And that felt good. Really good. Wednesday morning I started making calls. The first was to Derek's mother, Patricia. "Naomi, honey," she answered warmly. "What a lovely surprise. How are you?" I took a deep breath. This wasn't going to be easy. Patricia adored Derek, her only son, her pride and joy. But she also loved me and she deserved to know the truth about what her son had become. "Patricia, I need to talk to you about something serious," I said. "It's about Derek." The warmth in her voice shifted to concern. "What's wrong? Is he okay?" "He's fine physically," I said carefully. "But I discovered something last week that I think you need to know about. Derek is having an affair." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. When Patricia finally spoke, her voice was small and shocked. "Are you certain?" "Completely certain. I have months of messages between them, receipts, evidence of trips they've taken together. It's been going on for 8 months. I paused. "He's taking her to Constellation on Friday night. Telling me it's a business dinner." "Constellation." Patricia's voice cracked. "That's where he proposed to you." "I know," I said quietly. "That's why I'm calling. I'm not confronting him privately. I'm going to that restaurant on Friday with everyone who matters in our lives. I want you and Richard there to see the truth for yourselves. I want Derek to face what he's done in front of the people he supposedly loves and respects." Another long silence. Then Patricia said something that surprised me. "We'll be there." "What time?" I gave her the details and she promised to bring Derek's father Richard without telling Derek they were coming. Before we hung up, Patricia said something that made tears spring to my eyes. "Naomi, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve this. You've been nothing but good to my son, and if what you're saying is true, then he's forgotten everything his father and I taught him about honor and commitment. We'll be there Friday and Derek will answer for this." Next I called my own parents. My father answered, and when I told him about Derek's affair, I heard him call for my mother to pick up the extension. They listened to everything and by the end, my mother was crying and my father was using language I rarely heard from him. "Say the word and I'll go over there right now," my father said, his voice tight with anger. "No, Dad. I need you to trust me on this. I have a plan and it's going to work. But I need you both there Friday night to support me." "We'll be there," my mother said immediately. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I thought Derek was one of the good ones." "I did too, Mom." The rest of Wednesday and Thursday were a blur of phone calls and careful planning. I called Derek's best friend Jerome and his wife, our friends from college who'd been at our wedding. Called my cousin Tasha who lived nearby. I called 3 couples from our neighborhood who we'd had over for dinners and game nights dozens of times. Every conversation was difficult. Everyone was shocked. A few people didn't want to believe it at first, but when I offered to show them the evidence, they quickly realized I wasn't making this up. And everyone agreed to come to the restaurant Friday night. By Thursday evening I had 15 people confirmed. Derek's parents, my parents, Simone, Imani, Jerome and his wife Angela, 2 other couples who were mutual friends and my cousin Tasha. 15 people who all believed they knew Derek as a good man, a faithful husband, a loyal friend. 15 witnesses to the truth. Thursday night, Imani came over as planned. Derek was out, supposedly at another late meeting, though I suspected he was actually with Candace doing some last-minute planning for their big romantic dinner. Good. That meant Imani and I could talk freely. "How are you feeling?" she asked as we sat in my living room with glasses of wine. "Honestly, I feel weirdly calm," I admitted. "Is that strange? Shouldn't I be falling apart?" "You already fell apart on Monday," Imani reminded me. "You've cried and processed and now you're in action mode. That's healthy, Naomi. You're taking control of a situation where Derek tried to take away your choice and your dignity. I keep wondering if I should give him a chance to explain," I said quietly. "If I should confront him privately first." "Why?" Imani asked bluntly. "So he can lie to you again? So he can manipulate you into thinking this is somehow your fault? So he can beg for forgiveness while still planning to see Candace tomorrow night?" She shook her head. "No. Derek made his choices for 8 months without consulting you. You get to make this choice without consulting him." She was right. I knew she was right. But some small part of me still loved the man I'd married, even though that man apparently didn't exist anymore. Or maybe he'd never existed at all. Maybe Derek had always been capable of this kind of betrayal and I'd just been too trusting to see it. "What if he cries?" I asked. "What if he makes a scene?" "Then let him," Imani said. "Let everyone see how he reacts when he's caught. That will tell them everything they need to know about his character." We spent the rest of the evening going over my plan again and again until I had every word memorized. I would walk up to their table, stay calm, present the facts, and let Derek's own actions speak for themselves. No yelling. No tears. Just cold, clear truth. When Derek came home around 10, smelling slightly of perfume that wasn't mine, I was already in bed pretending to be asleep. He kissed my forehead gently before heading to the bathroom. I heard him showering, probably washing off evidence of wherever he'd really been, and fought the urge to confront him right then. Tomorrow, I reminded myself. Tomorrow everyone would know the truth. Tomorrow Derek would face the consequences of his choices. Tomorrow I would start taking my life back. I just had to make it through one more day of lies. Friday morning arrived with unseasonably bright sunshine, as if the universe was mocking the darkness of what I knew was coming. Derek was in an exceptionally good mood at breakfast, whistling while he poured his coffee and actually complimenting my appearance. "You look nice today," he said, kissing my cheek. I was wearing old yoga pants and a sweatshirt. The compliment was either completely insincere or he was so distracted thinking about his dinner with Candace that he wasn't even seeing me. Probably the latter. "Thanks," I said flatly. "What time is your meeting tonight?" "Should be there by 7, Derek said, checking his phone. "Probably confirming details with Candace. I'll probably be home around 11 or so." "You said you're having dinner with Simone?" "That's the plan," I lied smoothly. I'd gotten quite good at lying this week. Apparently it was contagious. Derek nodded, already mentally checked out. "Great. Well, I better get going. Big day ahead." He grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door, then paused and came back to kiss me one more time. "Love you." Those words used to mean everything to me. Now they just sounded empty. "Love you too," I said automatically. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I called the restaurant to confirm my reservation. "Yes, I have a party of 15 at 7 o'clock under the name Williams. I'd like to request a specific table if possible, something with a clear view of the entire main dining room, particularly the corner tables." The hostess checked her computer. "I can arrange that. Is there a special occasion?" I smiled grimly. "You could say that. It's going to be a night no one forgets." Next, I texted my sister, "It's happening. Meet at my house at 5 to help me get ready." Her response was immediate, "Already planning to leave work early. We've got this." I spent the afternoon in a strange state of suspended animation. I cleaned the house even though there was no reason to. I organized my closet. I did laundry. Anything to keep my hands busy and my mind from spiraling into panic. Every time I started to doubt my plan, I opened my phone and looked at the evidence I'd compiled. The messages. The receipts. The lies. This was real. Derek had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And he'd chosen to continue betraying me tonight, at the restaurant where he'd promised to love me forever. He'd made this bet. Now he could lie in it. At 4:30, I started getting ready. I took a long shower, blow-dried my hair until it fell in perfect waves down my back, and did my makeup carefully, not too dramatic but enough to show I'd made an effort. I wanted to look beautiful tonight. Not for Derek but for myself. I wanted him to see exactly what he was losing. Simone and Imani arrived at 5 carrying a garment bag. "We went shopping," Simone announced. "You can't wear anything Derek has seen before. Tonight, You need to look like the powerful woman you are. They'd bought me a dress, a stunning emerald green number that hugged my curves perfectly and made my dark skin glow. It was elegant but bold, expensive but not flashy. It was a dress that commanded attention and respect. It's perfect, I whispered, tears threatening to ruin my careful makeup. Don't cry yet, Imani said, handing me tissues. Save the tears for later. Right now we need you strong. I changed into the dress and slipped on the black heels they'd also bought. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked powerful, confident, like someone who couldn't be broken by betrayal. You're going to walk in there and every head will turn, Simone said with satisfaction. And Derek is going to realize exactly what he threw away. At 6:30 we left for the restaurant. My parents were already there, waiting in the parking lot along with Derek's parents. The look on Patricia's face when she saw me made my heart ache. She looked devastated, aged 10 years in just 2 days. You look beautiful, sweetheart, my mother said, hugging me carefully so as not to wrinkle my dress. Are you ready for this? I have to be, I said simply. Everyone else arrived within the next 15 minutes. Jerome and Angela. The other couples. My cousin Tasha. 15 people who all looked nervous and sad and angry on my behalf. 15 people who were about to witness the end of my marriage. At exactly 7 o'clock, I led our group into Constellation. The restaurant was as beautiful as I remembered, all soft lighting, elegant table settings, and quiet classical music. The hostess greeted us professionally and began leading us to our reserved table. And that's when I saw them. Derek and Candace were already seated at a corner table, exactly where I'd predicted they'd be. They were holding hands across the table, leaning close together, completely absorbed in their own private world. Candace was wearing red, that red dress Derek had mentioned in his messages. She was pretty in a conventional way with straight blonde hair and delicate features. Nothing like me at all, which somehow made it hurt worse. Derek was smiling at her the way he used to smile at me. Intimate. Adoring. Like she was the only person in the world who mattered. My hands clenched into fists, but I kept my face calm. Our group was seated at a large table with a perfect view of Derek and Candace's intimate dinner. They hadn't noticed us yet, too wrapped up in each other to pay attention to the other diners. Is that him? Patricia asked quietly, her voice shaking. That's him, I confirmed. Jerome looked sick. I can't believe it. I've known Derek since freshman year of college. I would have bet my life he'd never do something like this. Apparently we don't know him as well as we thought, I said coldly. We ordered drinks while I watched Derek and Candace. They were toasting with champagne, laughing at private jokes, playing with each other's fingers across the table. Every gesture felt like a knife in my chest, but I refused to look away. I needed to see this. Needed to remember exactly why I was doing what I was about to do. When are you going over there? Imani asked quietly. Soon, I said. I want to wait until they're completely comfortable. Until Derek thinks he's gotten away with it. So we waited. We ordered appetizers and made small talk, though the tension at our table was thick enough to cut. Derek's father Richard looked like he wanted to storm over there and drag his son out by his ear. My father kept flexing his hands like he wanted to punch something. After about 30 minutes, Derek and Candace's entrees arrived. They were fully relaxed now, feeding each other bites of food, laughing loudly enough for nearby tables to glance over at them. Derek had his hand on Candace's thigh under the table. It was time. Okay, I said quietly, standing up. I'm going over there now. Simone grabbed my hand. You've got this. We're right here if you need us. I nodded, smoothed down my dress, and began walking across the restaurant toward my husband and his mistress. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor with each step. A few people glanced up at me as I passed. The beautiful woman in the green dress who looked like she was on a mission. Derek still hadn't noticed me. He was too busy staring at Candace, telling her some story that had her giggling and touching his arm. I stopped right beside their table. Candace noticed me first, looking up with a confused smile like she thought maybe I was the waitress. Then Derek looked up, and the color drained from his face. Naomi, he breathed. The morning had started with Derek's whistling and my silent rage. Now, hours later, I was walking across an elegant restaurant toward the man who'd betrayed me, and every step felt like walking toward either my complete destruction or my liberation. Earlier, when Simone and Imani had arrived at my house with that garment bag, I'd felt something shift inside me. They understood what I needed in a way I hadn't even fully articulated to myself. I needed to look like someone who couldn't be destroyed. Someone who was choosing to leave, not being abandoned. The emerald green dress they'd chosen was perfect. Not too sexy, not too conservative. It hit just above my knees and had a subtle neckline that was elegant rather than provocative. The color made my brown skin glow and my eyes stand out. When I'd slipped on the black heels and looked at myself in the full-length mirror, I'd seen a woman I barely recognized. "I look different," I'd said quietly. "You look like yourself," Simone had corrected. "The version of yourself you've been hiding while trying to be the perfect wife for a man who didn't appreciate you." While I'd finished my makeup, Imani had helped me practice what I would say. We'd gone through various scenarios. What if Derek denied everything? What if Candace caused a scene? What if he tried to leave before I could say my piece? "You stay calm no matter what," Imani had coached. "Your composure is your power. Let him be the one who falls apart. Let everyone see the real Derek when he's backed into a corner." My mother had cried when she saw me, but they were proud tears. "You're so strong, baby," she'd whispered. Stronger than I ever was. I hadn't known what she meant until my father had squeezed my shoulder and said quietly, "Your mother went through something similar when we were young. Before you and Simone were born. She gave me a second chance and I spent every day after that trying to deserve it. But that was her choice to make and this is yours. Whatever you decide, we support you." The revelation had shocked me. My parents had always seemed so solid, so unshakable. But I understood what they were telling me. Everyone had their own story, their own path through betrayal. Mine didn't have to look like anyone else's. Now, standing beside Derek's table with Candace looking confused and Derek looking terrified, I felt that strength they'd all spoken about settling into my bones. This was my moment. My choice. My truth to tell. "Naomi?" Derek said again, standing up so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer him immediately. Instead, I looked at Candace, really looked at her. She was younger than me, maybe 26 or 27. Pretty in that generic way that came from good makeup and expensive hair treatments. She was looking between Derek and me with growing confusion and what might have been the first flicker of understanding. "You must be Candace," I said calmly. "I'm Naomi, Derek's wife." The word wife hit her like a physical blow. Her eyes went wide and she looked at Derek with sudden horror. "Wife? You said you were divorced." So she hadn't known. Or at least that's what Derek had told her. The revelation should have made me feel better. At least she wasn't knowingly sleeping with a married man. But it didn't. Because it meant Derek had lied to both of us. He'd built two completely separate false realities. "Not divorced," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet restaurant. Other diners were starting to notice the drama unfolding. "Very much married. 7 years next month, actually. Though I suppose we won't be celebrating that anniversary." Derek tried to step between us. "Naomi, please, let's talk about this outside." "No," I said sharply. The single word made him stop in his tracks. "We're not going outside. We're not going anywhere private where you can lie to me again. This ends here, Derek. Right here, right now, in front of everyone." I pulled out my phone and opened the folder of screenshots I'd compiled. "I found your messages with Candace on your laptop 5 days ago. I've read every conversation you two have had for the past 8 months. I know about the trips to Boston, Miami, and Chicago that you told me were business meetings. I know about the jewelry you bought her, $3,200 from Tiffany's last month. I know about the hotel rooms and the romantic dinners and every single lie you've told me while pretending to be a faithful husband." Derek's face had gone from pale to red. "You went through my computer? That's a violation of privacy." "You violated our marriage," I said coldly. "Don't you dare try to make this about privacy when you've been sleeping with another woman for 8 months. Candace stood up, tears streaming down her face. "He told me he was divorced 2 years ago. He said his ex-wife was fine with him moving on. He said," her voice broke, "I never would have gone out with him if I knew he was married. I'm not that kind of person." I believed her. The look of betrayal on her face mirrored how I'd felt 5 days ago. Derek had made fools of both of us. "I know," I said to her gently. "This isn't your fault. Well, not entirely. But Derek's the one who made vows to me. Derek's the one who lied every single day while planning his special 8-month anniversary dinner at the restaurant where he proposed to me." That detail made several nearby diners gasp. The romantic symbolism of it, using the site of his proposal for his affair anniversary, was so cruel it took people's breath away. Derek was starting to panic now, looking around the restaurant and finally noticing how many people were watching. "Naomi, I'm sorry, okay? I made a mistake. Can we please just go home and talk about this?" "A mistake," I repeated. "A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is missing an exit on the highway. 8 months of lying and cheating isn't a mistake, Derek. It's a choice. You chose this. I'll end it right now, he said desperately, reaching for my hand. I stepped back before he could touch me. I'll never speak to Candace again. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. No, I said simply. We can't. Because I don't want to fix this. I want a divorce. The word hung in the air between us. Derek's face crumpled, and for a second I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered every lie, every betrayal, every time he'd kissed me goodnight while texting another woman. You don't mean that, he said weakly. I absolutely mean it, I said. In fact, I've already filed the paperwork. My lawyer submitted it Wednesday morning. You'll be served next week. Derek staggered back like I'd hit him. You've already filed? Without even talking to me? Why would I talk to you? I asked. So you could try to manipulate me into staying? So you could promise to change and then go right back to lying as soon as my guard was down? No thank you. I'm done being played for a fool. That's when I noticed movement from across the restaurant. My family and friends were approaching, all 15 of them forming a semicircle around Derek's table. Derek's eyes went wide when he recognized his parents, his best friend, everyone who mattered in his life. Mom? Dad? He said, his voice breaking. What are you all doing here? Your wife called us, Patricia said coldly. She told us what you've been doing and we didn't want to believe it. But here you are, caught red-handed with your mistress. We raised you better than this, Richard added, his voice heavy with disappointment. We taught you about honor and commitment and loyalty. Where did that man go, Derek? Jerome stepped forward, shaking his head. I've known you since we were 18, man. I thought I knew what kind of person you were. I guess I was wrong. Derek looked around at the circle of people who'd once respected him, now all staring with disappointment and anger. His perfect life was crumbling in real time, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. I can explain, he tried weakly. No, you can't, I said. There's no explanation that makes this okay. You betrayed me, you lied to Candace, and you disrespected everyone here who believed in you. The only question now is whether you're going to accept this with whatever dignity you have left, or if you're going to make this even uglier than it already is. Derek looked at me with tears in his eyes. I love you, Naomi. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. Those words, which would have meant everything to me a week ago, now meant nothing. You don't love me, Derek. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to do this. Love isn't just a word you say, it's how you act when no one's watching. And when no one was watching, you chose to betray me over and over again. I looked at everyone gathered around us. Thank you all for being here tonight. I needed witnesses to the truth and you gave me that. Now I think it's time to leave Derek to his romantic dinner. I turned to walk away, my head held high, my shoulders back. I'd said what I needed to say. I'd exposed the truth. Now I just needed to walk out of this restaurant and start rebuilding my life. Naomi, wait. Derek called out. But I didn't wait. I didn't look back. I just kept walking toward the exit with my sister on one side and my best friend on the other, leaving Derek standing in the wreckage of his own making. The moment I'd said, "You must be Candace," time had seemed to slow down. I could see every micro-expression on their faces, Derek's panic, Candace's confusion morphing into horror, the other diners leaning in to catch every word of the drama unfolding. Now, as I walked back toward my table with my family following, I realized my hands were shaking. The adrenaline that had kept me calm and composed during the confrontation was starting to wear off, and the reality of what I'd just done was hitting me. I'd just ended my marriage in the most public way possible. There was no going back from this. No possibility of reconciliation. I'd burned that bridge so thoroughly that not even ashes remained. Sit down, Simone said gently, guiding me into my chair. Breathe. I sat and tried to follow her instructions, but my breath kept catching in my throat. Around me, everyone was talking at once. My parents, Derek's parents, our friends, all of them expressing shock and support and anger at Derek. But their voices sounded distant, like I was underwater. Is she okay? I heard my mother ask. She's in shock, Imani said. She's been holding this in for days. Now that it's done, she's processing. Across the restaurant, I could see Derek still standing by his table. Candace was gone. She'd fled at some point during the confrontation, probably humiliated and hurt by Derek's lies. Derek was alone now, being stared at by every other diner in the restaurant, his romantic evening completely destroyed. Part of me felt triumphant. This was exactly what I'd wanted, to expose him, to humiliate him the way he'd humiliated me. But another part of me just felt sad. Sad for the marriage that had died. Sad for the man I'd thought I married who apparently never existed. Sad for the future I'd imagined that would now never happen. Naomi? Patricia approached our table, her eyes red from crying. Can I talk to you for a moment? I nodded, and she sat down in the empty chair beside me. Richard stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. I'm so sorry, Patricia said, her voice shaking. I don't know what happened to my son. The boy I raised would never have done something like this. I'm ashamed of him. It's not your fault, I said quietly. You and Richard taught him right from wrong. He's the one who chose to ignore those lessons. I want you to know that Richard and I consider you family, Patricia continued. Divorce papers don't change that. You'll always be our daughter in our hearts. And when this goes to court, we'll testify on your behalf if you need us to. Derek needs to face the consequences of what he's done. The kindness in her words broke through my shock, and tears started falling down my cheeks. I'd been so focused on the betrayal that I hadn't thought about losing Derek's family too. But here they were, choosing me over their own son because they valued truth and loyalty over blood. Thank you, I whispered. Jerome approached next, looking uncomfortable. Naomi, I owe you an apology. Derek and I go to the gym together 3 times a week. We grab beers after. He never mentioned Candace, never gave any sign that something was wrong in your marriage. But looking back, I realize I should have noticed. The way he'd check his phone constantly and smile. The times he'd cancel plans at the last minute. I should have asked questions. You're not responsible for Derek's lies, I said. No one is except Derek. Still, Jerome said. I feel like I failed you as a friend. If there's anything Angela and I can do, anything at all, please let us know. One by one, everyone at our table expressed their support and their anger at Derek. They'd all come tonight expecting to witness a confrontation, but they were leaving with a firm understanding of whose side they were on. What? After about 20 minutes, a manager approached our table. He looked nervous. Mrs. Williams? I'm terribly sorry about the disturbance. We don't usually have situations like this in our establishment. Your meals tonight will be complimentary, of course. That's not necessary, I started to say, but Simone cut me off. Yes, it is necessary. Thank you for your understanding. The manager nodded and retreated, clearly relieved that we weren't causing more of a scene. Should we order dinner? My father asked. We're already here and I don't know about everyone else, but I'm starving. It was such a practical, fatherly thing to say that it made me laugh. Really laugh. For the first time in days. Sure, Dad. Let's eat. So we did. We ordered entrees and ate dinner together while Derek remained at his table across the restaurant, alone and visibly miserable. A few times I saw him looking over at us, but I refused to make eye contact. I'd said everything I needed to say to him. The rest would be handled by lawyers. The food was excellent, though I could barely taste it. My cousin Tasha kept the conversation flowing with funny stories from her job. My mother held my hand under the table. Simone made sure my wine glass stayed full. Everyone was working together to keep me from falling apart, and it was working. Around 9 o'clock, Derek finally stood up from his table. He paid his bill, looking devastated, and walked toward the exit. As he passed our table, he stopped. Naomi, he said quietly, please, can we talk? Just for 5 minutes? I looked up at him. This man I'd loved for 9 years, married for 7, built a life with. His eyes were red from crying. His expensive suit was wrinkled. He looked broken. No, I said calmly. We have nothing to talk about. Anything you need to say to me can go through my lawyer. I made a mistake, he said desperately. I know I hurt you, but I still love you. I want to fix this. Derek, you need to leave, Richard said firmly, standing up. You've done enough damage for one night. Derek looked at his father, then back at me. I'm not giving up on us, Naomi. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. There is no us anymore, I said. You killed us 8 months ago when you started sleeping with Candace. Tonight you just made it official. Derek opened his mouth to argue, but Jerome stood up too, forming a physical barrier between Derek and our table. Leave, man. You've lost the right to talk to her. Derek looked around at the circle of people who'd once been his friends and family, all of them united against him. The reality of what he'd lost seemed to hit him all at once, and he staggered backward. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Then he turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving me surrounded by people who actually cared about me. People who hadn't betrayed me. People who would help me rebuild whatever came next. The moment the door closed behind Derek, I felt something inside me release. It was done. The worst part was over. I'd confronted him, exposed the truth, and survived. Everything from here on out would be hard. The divorce, the splitting of assets, the gossip and questions from people who didn't know the full story. But I would survive that too. Because I was stronger than Derek had ever given me credit for. And I was done letting him control any part of my life. After Derek left the restaurant, something unexpected happened. Instead of feeling victorious or relieved, I felt utterly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation drained away, leaving me hollow and shaky. "I need to go home," I said quietly. Everyone understood immediately. We paid our bill. Well, technically the restaurant had comped it, but we left a generous tip for our server who'd witnessed the entire drama. As we filed out of Constellation, I noticed other diners still watching us, whispering to each other. Tomorrow this story would spread throughout our social circle. By next week, everyone would know what Derek had done. Good. Let them know. Let everyone see him for who he really was. My parents offered to drive me home, but I declined. I needed some time alone to process everything. Simone and Imani insisted on following me in their car, refusing to let me be completely alone. I didn't have the energy to argue. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat in my car for a long moment, staring at the house I'd shared with Derek for 5 years. It was a beautiful house, 3 bedrooms, a renovated kitchen, a backyard where we'd planned to let our future children play. Now it was just a building filled with memories I wasn't sure I wanted to keep. Simone tapped on my window. "Come on, let's get you inside." The house felt different when I walked in. Colder. Emptier. Even though Derek wasn't there yet, probably driving around trying to figure out what to do, his presence felt diminished somehow. Like he'd already moved out emotionally. "Do you want us to stay?" Imani asked. I shook my head. "No, I'll be okay. I just need to sleep. I'm so tired." They made me promise to call if Derek came home and caused any problems, then reluctantly left. I locked the door behind them, changed into pajamas, and crawled into bed. My bed. Not our bed anymore. Mine. Sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's face when I'd walked up to his table. The shock. The panic. The desperate attempts to explain or minimize or somehow make this my fault. But I also saw Candace's face when she'd realized Derek had lied to her. The hurt and betrayal there had been real. Derek was a liar. He'd lied to me, lied to her, probably lied to himself about what he was doing. And now he was facing the consequences. I must have eventually fallen asleep because I woke up to the sound of the front door opening. I glanced at my phone, 2:47 a.m. Derek was home. I heard him moving around downstairs, probably expecting me to be asleep. Part of me wanted to go down there and yell at him, to say all the things I hadn't said at the restaurant. But I was too tired. Too wrung out. So I just lay there in the dark, listening to my husband move through our house like a stranger. After about 20 minutes, I heard his footsteps on the stairs. He paused outside our bedroom door and I held my breath, wondering if he'd try to come in. But he didn't. He went to the guest room instead. Good. At least he had that much sense. The next morning, I woke up early and found Derek sitting at the kitchen table, still wearing yesterday's clothes, looking like he hadn't slept at all. There was a coffee cup in front of him, but it looked untouched. "We need to talk," he said when he saw me. "No, we don't," I replied, heading straight for the coffee maker. "Naomi, please. Just hear me out." I poured my coffee and turned to face him. "Fine. You have 5 minutes. Say whatever you think you need to say." Derek stood up, running his hands through his hair. He looked terrible, eyes bloodshot, face pale, his usual confidence completely gone. "I know I messed up. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need you to understand that I never meant for this to happen. It just happened." I laughed bitterly. "Affairs don't just happen, Derek. You made conscious choices every single day for 8 months. You chose to start talking to Candace. You chose to meet her for lunch. You chose to kiss her that first time. You chose to sleep with her. You chose to take her on trips and buy her expensive gifts and lie to my face every single day. None of that just happened." I was confused, he said desperately. Things between us had gotten stale. We barely talked anymore. I felt like we were just roommates. "So your solution was to cheat instead of talking to me about it?" I asked. "Instead of suggesting counseling or a date night or any of the 1,000 things couples do when they hit a rough patch. You went straight to having an affair?" I know, he said, his voice breaking. "I handled it all wrong. But it's over now. I ended things with Candace last night. I told her I made a mistake and that I want to work on my marriage." I stared at him, genuinely incredulous. "You think I care whether you ended things with Candace?" Derek, the problem isn't Candace. The problem is you. You're the one who betrayed me. You're the one who lied. And even if Candace never existed, I still wouldn't be able to trust you anymore. I'll earn your trust back, he said, stepping toward me. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy. Counseling. An open phone policy. Whatever you need. What I need, I said coldly, is a divorce. I already told you that last night. That hasn't changed. Derek's face crumpled. You can't mean that. 7 years of marriage and you're just going to throw it all away? I didn't throw it away, I said, my voice rising. You did. You threw it away the first time you kissed Candace. You threw it away every time you lied to me about where you were. You threw it away when you decided our marriage vows meant nothing. This isn't my choice, Derek. This is the consequence of your choices. So that's it? He asked, tears streaming down his face. 7 years together and you won't even give me a chance to make it right? I set down my coffee cup and looked him straight in the eye. Let me ask you something. If I hadn't found those messages, if I hadn't figured out what you were doing, would you have ended the affair on your own? Derek hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. That's what I thought, I said. You're not sorry you had an affair, Derek. You're sorry you got caught. And the only reason you want to make it right is because your comfortable life just exploded in your face. Well, I'm not going to help you put it back together. You can figure out your own mess. What about the house? He asked, switching topics to something more practical. What about our friends? Our life? My lawyer will handle the house and property division, I said. As for our friends, they saw what you did last night. They know the truth. If you're worried about your reputation, you should have thought about that before you decided to take your mistress to the restaurant where you proposed to me. Derek flinched. That was cruel of you. Bringing everyone there. You humiliated me in front of people I've known for years. Good, I said without sympathy. Maybe if you're humiliated enough, you'll actually learn something from this. Maybe your next wife won't have to go through what I went through. There won't be a next wife, Derek said desperately. There's only you. There's only ever been you. That's not true, I said quietly. For the past 8 months, there's been Candace too. And who knows how many others there might be in the future. You've shown me who you are, Derek. I'm choosing to believe you. The conversation was going in circles and I was done with it. I'm going to spend the day at Simone's. When I come back tonight, I'd like you to be moved into the guest room permanently. Or better yet, find somewhere else to stay. A hotel. Your parents' house. I don't care. But I'm done sharing space with you. Naomi. We're done talking, I said firmly. Anything else goes through our lawyers. I grabbed my purse and my phone and walked out of my own house, leaving Derek standing in the kitchen. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw him through the window, his shoulders shaking as he cried. I should have felt bad for him. But I didn't. I just felt free. The divorce papers were officially served to Derek the following Tuesday. I wasn't there when it happened. I'd moved in temporarily with Simone to give Derek time to find another place to stay, but apparently he'd answered the door thinking it was a food delivery and instead got handed the biggest wake-up call of his life. He tried calling me 17 times that day. I didn't answer once. He texted me 43 messages, ranging from angry to desperate to pathetic. I read them all but didn't respond. What was there to say? Everything that needed to be said had been said at Constellation. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Diana who specialized in high-conflict divorces, assured me that we had an airtight case. With the evidence you've provided, the messages, the financial records, the witnesses from the restaurant, he'd be insane to try to fight this. My guess is he'll want to settle quickly and quietly to minimize the damage to his reputation. She was right. Within 2 weeks, Derek's lawyer contacted Diana with a settlement offer. It wasn't generous, but it wasn't insulting either. He'd keep his retirement accounts, I'd keep mine. We'd split the value of the house, though I'd get to stay there until it's sold. I'd get my car, he'd get his. Everything else would be divided fairly. What about the $30,000 he spent on his affair? I asked Diana. She smiled. That's marital funds that he spent without your knowledge or consent. We're claiming that as marital waste. He'll have to reimburse half of that amount to you. So Derek's affair was going to cost him $15,000 on top of everything else. Good. The personal fallout was harder to navigate than the legal stuff. Our friends had divided themselves into camps. Most sided with me after witnessing the restaurant confrontation, but a few thought I'd been too harsh, too public, too unwilling to forgive. Marriage is hard, one of Derek's co-workers' wives said to me at the grocery store. Sometimes people make mistakes. Don't you think you're being a little harsh? Would you forgive your husband if he'd been cheating for 8 months? I asked directly. She looked uncomfortable. Well, I don't know. Maybe if he was truly sorry. Derek's not sorry he cheated, I interrupted. He's sorry he got caught. There's a big difference. She didn't have a response to that. Derek's reputation took a massive hit. Word spread through our social circle and then through his professional network. Several people reached out to tell me they'd always suspected something was off about Derek, or that they'd heard rumors about him flirting with women at office parties. Information that would have been useful 8 months ago but now just confirmed what I already knew. I'd been the last person to know about my husband's affair. The hardest part was dealing with Derek's attempts to win me back. He sent flowers to Simone's apartment with notes begging for another chance. He showed up at my office twice before building security was instructed not to let him up. He even tried to get his mother to intercede on his behalf, but Patricia shut that down immediately. I raised you better than this, I heard her tell him when I was at their house picking up some of my belongings that Derek had stored there. You made your choices, now you deal with the consequences. Naomi doesn't owe you forgiveness. But she's my wife, Derek said, sounding broken. No, Patricia corrected. She was your wife. You ended that when you decided to cheat. Now she's the woman you betrayed, and she has every right to move on without you. Hearing Patricia defend me like that made me cry. I'd lost my husband, but I'd gained the unwavering support of people who actually valued loyalty and truth. 6 weeks after the restaurant confrontation, I went back to the house to start packing up my things. Derek had finally moved out. He'd rented a small apartment across town, and the house sat empty and quiet. I walked through the rooms looking at the life we'd built. The couch we'd picked out together. The kitchen table where we'd eaten 1,000 meals. The bedroom where we'd slept side by side for 7 years. Each room held memories, but they felt distant now, like they belonged to a different person. I started with my clothes and personal items, boxing them up methodically. Then I moved to the shared spaces, deciding what I wanted to keep and what Derek could have. I didn't want anything that would remind me too much of him. No wedding photos. No vacation souvenirs from trips we'd taken together. None of the gifts he'd given me over the years. I was packing up books in the living room when I heard a key in the lock. Derek walked in, stopping short when he saw me. I didn't know you'd be here, he said. It's still my house too until it sells, I replied without looking up. Derek stood awkwardly in the doorway. He looked different, thinner, tired, older somehow. The confident man I'd married had been replaced by someone uncertain and diminished. Can we talk? He asked. We have nothing to talk about. I've been going to therapy, he said, like that mattered. Twice a week. My therapist says I have issues with intimacy and commitment that stem from my childhood. I'm working through them. Good for you, I said, still packing books. Maybe you'll be a better husband to your next wife. I don't want a next wife, Derek said, his voice breaking. I want you. I want to fix what I broke. I finally looked up at him. Derek, you can't fix this. You shattered something that can't be put back together. Trust, once broken, doesn't just heal because you're going to therapy and feeling sorry for yourself. I know I hurt you. No, I interrupted. You didn't just hurt me. You humiliated me. You made me look like a fool in front of everyone we know. You took my love and my trust and my loyalty and you threw them away for someone you barely knew. You made me question everything about myself. Was I not pretty enough? Smart enough? Interesting enough? You made me feel like I wasn't enough, and I will never forgive you for that. Derek was crying now. You were always enough. You are enough. The affair wasn't about you. It was about me and my issues. I don't care about your issues, I said harshly. Your issues are your problem to solve. My problem is rebuilding my life after you destroyed it. And I can't do that with you still in it. So that's it. Derek asked. You're just going to walk away from everything we built? I looked around the house one more time. There's nothing left to walk away from. You already destroyed it. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Derek stood there for a long moment, then finally nodded and turned to leave. At the door he paused. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. You deserve better than what I gave you. I know, I said simply. That's why I'm leaving. After he left, I sat down in the middle of the living room floor and cried. Not for Derek or our marriage. I was crying for the version of myself who'd trusted so completely that she'd never seen the betrayal coming. That woman was gone now, replaced by someone harder and more cautious. But maybe that wasn't entirely a bad thing. 3 months after the restaurant confrontation, the divorce was finalized. I sat in the courtroom with Diana while the judge reviewed our settlement agreement and declared our marriage dissolved. Derek wasn't even there. His lawyer represented him while he stayed away, probably unable to face me one more time. When the judge's gavel came down, ending my 7-year marriage in less than 15 minutes, I felt nothing. No sadness, no relief, nothing. I was just numb. How do you feel? Diana asked as we walked out of the courthouse. Empty, I admitted. Is that normal? Completely normal, she assured me. You've been running on adrenaline and anger for months. Now that it's over, you're probably experiencing an emotional come-down. Give yourself time to process. She was right. The next few weeks were strange. I'd moved back into the house after Derek moved out, and I spent my time painting walls, rearranging furniture, and basically erasing every trace of him. I threw out the bedding we'd shared and bought new sheets. I replaced photos of us with artwork I actually liked. I turned his home office into a reading room. I was remaking the house into my space. A place where I could heal and grow without Derek's ghost haunting every corner. Work became my sanctuary. I threw myself into my cases at the law firm, working longer hours and taking on more responsibility. My boss noticed and offered me a promotion, junior partner, a position I'd been working toward for years. I accepted immediately. You seem different lately, he said. More confident. More decisive. I got divorced, I said simply. Turns out ending a bad marriage was the best career move I could have made. He laughed, but it was true. Without Derek draining my emotional energy, I had more to give to my work. More clarity. More focus. I was better at my job now than I'd ever been. My social life transformed too. Simone and Imani took me out every Friday night, sometimes to bars, sometimes to movies, sometimes just to their apartments for wine and conversation. They were teaching me how to be single again, how to be just Naomi instead of Naomi and Derek. Have you thought about dating? Imani asked one night about 4 months post-divorce. God, no, I said immediately. I'm not ready for that. Maybe I'll never be ready. You will be, Simone assured me. Not now, but eventually. When the right person comes along, you'll know. I wasn't sure I believed her, but I appreciated the optimism. In therapy, yes, I'd started going too. I worked through the betrayal and the trust issues and the lingering questions about what I'd done wrong. My therapist kept trying to get me to see that Derek's affair wasn't my fault. He made a choice, she said for probably the 20th time. His choice, not yours. You could have been the perfect wife and he still might have cheated, because cheating is about the cheater's character, not the spouse's worthiness. Intellectually, I knew she was right. Emotionally, I was still working on believing it. One Saturday morning, about 5 months after the divorce, I was at a coffee shop working on some case files when someone approached my table. Naomi? I looked up to see Candace standing there looking nervous. She'd lost weight since I'd last seen her at the restaurant, and there were dark circles under her eyes. Candace, I said, surprised. What are you doing here? I saw you from across the street, she said. I wasn't going to say anything, but then I thought, I owe you an apology. A real one, face to face. I gestured to the empty chair across from me. Sit. She sat down carefully, like she was afraid I might throw my coffee at her. I know I said this at the restaurant, but I need you to know that I really didn't know Derek was married. He showed me photos of you and told me you were his ex-wife, that you'd been divorced for 2 years. He said you both moved on and were friendly. I believed him because why would someone lie about something like that? Because Derek's a liar, I said simply. He lied to you, he lied to me, he probably lies to himself. That's who he is. I've been in therapy, Candace said quietly, trying to figure out how I missed the signs. My therapist says I was groomed in a way. That Derek told me exactly what I wanted to hear and manipulated me into believing his version of reality. Probably, I agreed. That's what manipulators do. I'm not trying to excuse what I did, Candace continued. Even if I thought you were his ex, I still participated in hurting you. I still went to that restaurant, wore that dress, celebrated an anniversary of something built on lies. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw genuine remorse. Genuine pain. She'd been a victim of Derek's lies too, in a different way than me, but still a victim. I forgive you, I said, surprising myself. What happened wasn't entirely your fault. Derek's the one who made vows to me. Derek's the one who created this whole mess. You were just caught up in it. Candace started crying. Thank you. God, thank you. I've been so afraid to run into you. So afraid you'd hate me forever. I don't hate you, I said honestly. I did for a while. But hating you took too much energy and I needed that energy to rebuild my life. So I let it go. We talked for another 20 minutes. She told me she'd ended things with Derek immediately after the restaurant incident and blocked him on everything. She'd started therapy. She'd moved to a different part of town to avoid running into him. She was trying to put her life back together just like I was. When she left, I felt lighter somehow. Letting go of my anger toward Candace had freed up space in my heart for healing. That night, I did something I hadn't done since discovering Derek's affair. I looked at old photos of myself from before I got married. I'd been so happy then. So confident and free. So certain of who I was and what I wanted. Somewhere along the way, I'd lost that version of myself. I'd become smaller, quieter, more focused on making Derek happy than making myself happy. I'd given up hobbies he didn't like. I'd stopped seeing friends he found annoying. I'd molded myself into the wife I thought he wanted. And he cheated anyway. Looking at those old photos, I made myself a promise. I was going to find that woman again. The confident, happy, free version of Naomi who existed before Derek. And once I found her, I was never going to let anyone make me feel less than her again. 6 months after the divorce, I stood in my newly remodeled home office, formerly Derek's space, now completely transformed into a bright, inspiring workspace, and took stock of my life. I'd gotten the promotion at work and was thriving in my new role. I'd reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. I'd started taking painting classes on weekends, rediscovering a hobby I'd abandoned years ago. I traveled to 3 cities I'd always wanted to visit, solo trips that terrified and exhilarated me in equal measure. I was becoming someone new. Or maybe I was becoming who I'd always been meant to be, before I tried to fit myself into the box of being Derek's wife. My phone rang and I smiled when I saw it was Simone. "Lunch today?" she asked. "Can't," I said. "I have a meeting with a potential new client at noon, then I'm meeting with the realtor to finalize the sale of the house." "The house sold?" Simone asked, excited. "That's great. Where are you moving?" "I found a condo downtown," I said. 2 bedrooms, huge windows, walking distance to work. "It's perfect." "No memories of Derek," Simone said knowingly. "Exactly." After I hung up with Simone, I finished getting ready for my meeting. I looked at myself in the mirror, really looked, and liked what I saw. I was wearing a new dress, my hair was styled in a way I'd never tried before, and there was confidence in my eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. The meeting with the client went well. Afterward, I grabbed coffee and walked to the realtor's office to sign the final paperwork on the house sale. Derek and I would split the proceeds, giving us both enough for down payments on our new places. "Any regrets about selling?" the realtor asked as I signed the last form. "None," I said immediately. This house was full of lies and broken promises. I'm ready for a fresh start. That evening, I met Simone and Imani for dinner at our favorite restaurant. Not Constellation, we'd all silently agreed to avoid that place forever. Over pasta and wine, they caught me up on their lives and I caught them up on mine. "You seem happy," Imani observed. "Really happy. Not fake happy or trying to be strong happy. Actually happy." "I am," I admitted, surprised by how true it felt. "I'm not where I thought I'd be at 32, divorced, living alone, starting over. But I'm okay with it. Better than okay. I'm actually excited about my life for the first time in years." "That's because you're living for yourself now," Simone said. "Not for Derek or your marriage or what other people think you should be doing. Just for you." She was right. For the first time in my adult life, I was making choices based solely on what I wanted. Not what my husband wanted. Not what society expected. Just me choosing my own path. After dinner, as I was walking to my car, I heard someone call my name. I turned to see Derek standing a few feet away, looking hesitant. "Naomi," he said. "I wasn't following you, I swear. I'm meeting a friend for dinner and I saw you come out." "It's fine, Derek," I said calmly. I wasn't angry or nervous or even particularly interested. He was just someone I used to know. "You look good," he said, and there was genuine sadness in his voice. "Happy." "I am happy," I said simply. Derek nodded, shifting his weight from foot to foot. He looked uncomfortable, uncertain. Nothing like the confident man I'd married. "I heard the house sold. Are you moving somewhere nearby?" "Downtown," I said, not offering more details. "That's good. That's really good." He paused. "Naomi, I just want you to know that I really am sorry. For everything. I know I destroyed something precious, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. 6 months ago, those words would have meant something. Now they were just noise." "Okay," I said. "Okay." Derek looked confused, like he'd expected more of a reaction. "Okay," I repeated. "I accept your apology. I hope you learned something from what happened and that you'll be better in your next relationship. But this, us talking, you apologizing, it doesn't change anything. What's done is done. I know, Derek said quietly. I just needed you to know that I know I messed up. That I understand what I lost. Good luck, Derek, I said, meaning it. Then I walked past him to my car without looking back. As I drove home, I realized something important. I didn't hate Derek anymore. I didn't love him either. I just didn't care. He was a chapter in my life that had ended, and I was okay with that. More than okay. I was grateful. Grateful that I'd found out about his affair before wasting more years with him. Grateful that I'd had the strength to leave rather than staying in a broken marriage. Grateful for the support of my family and friends who'd stood by me. Grateful for the opportunity to rebuild my life into something authentic and true. 2 weeks later, I moved into my new condo. Simone and Imani helped me unpack, and we christened the place with champagne and pizza. To new beginnings, Simone toasted, raising her glass. To knowing your worth, Imani added. To freedom, I said, clinking my glass against theirs. That night, after my sister and best friend left, I stood on my new balcony looking out at the city lights. This was my space, my home, my life, and it was beautiful. I pulled out my phone and deleted the last photo I had of Derek. Then I deleted his contact information. I didn't need to hold on to that anymore. The past was behind me and the future was bright and wide open. My phone buzzed with a text from Simone. Proud of you, sis. You did the hard thing and came out stronger. I smiled and typed back, love you. Thanks for never letting me give up on myself. As I got ready for bed in my new place, I thought about everything that had happened over the past 6 months. The discovery of Derek's affair. The restaurant confrontation. The divorce. The rebuilding. It had been the hardest period of my life, but also the most transformative. Derek had tried to destroy me with his betrayal. Instead, he'd freed me. Freed me from a marriage that wasn't serving me. Freed me from pretending to be someone I wasn't. Freed me to discover who I really was beneath all the roles and expectations I'd been carrying. And who I was discovering was pretty amazing. Strong. Resilient. Capable of surviving the worst betrayal and coming out the other side not just intact but better than before. I was a woman who knew her worth and refused to settle for less than she deserved. A woman who could stand on her own and build a life she was proud of. Derek had thought I needed him. He'd been wrong. I didn't need him. I didn't need anyone. I was complete all on my own. And if someday I chose to share my life with someone new, it would be because I wanted to, not because I needed to. That was the real victory. Not the public humiliation of Derek at the restaurant. Not the favorable divorce settlement. Not even the successful rebuilding of my life. The real victory was learning that I was enough. Just me by myself, without a husband or a partner or anyone else to validate my worth. I was enough. And that was the happiest ending I could have asked for.